Hello everyone, this is the Commonwealth Realm and welcome to the third episode of Zelda Unknown about Lake Hylia and the waterways of Hyrule in Zelda Wii U. Nevertheless, before we begin, I want to add that there will be separate episodes at a later point in this series on Zora's domain and the Bay province of Zelda Wii U. Now let's get back to Lake Hylia, a common ground shared between the Zora race and the Hylians throughout the series. It is recognized by stark contrasts, where the province itself has a calm and inviting nature on its surface, but hides a true nightmare of a dungeon in its depths. From the gameplay presentation during the Game Awards by Mr. Anuma and Mr. Miyamoto, we know that there will be several lakes and rivers present throughout the world of Hyrule in Zelda Wii U. One of these, the lake in the southern part of the map, heavily resembles the one of Lake Hylia from Twilight Princess. Both of them are located eastwards of the desert province, which covered in the previous episode, and seem to share a decisive landmark that stretches through the middle of the lake. That is why this province is so compelling, since we have more proof of this area being Lake Hylia beside the map that was showcased on the Wii U gamepad. Since one of the things I misunderstood in my in-depth analysis of the new gameplay, but was later caught up by GameXplain and McIntyre Productions, was the likely presence of the Great Bridge of Hylia stretching across the lake in Zelda Wii U, a bridge that also appeared back in Twilight Princess. Nevertheless, to this point, no one has conducted a deeper analysis on the possible connection between these two structures. I decided therefore to capture some footage of the Great Bridge of Hylia from Twilight Princess and compare these to the footage of Zelda Wii U from the Game Awards. The first thing we can see when comparing is that in both of the games the southern gate of the Great Bridge of Hylia is located at the top of a hill, which Twilight Princess Link stands at the top of. Both of the imposing gates seem to be located in the same position at the southern edge of Lake Hylia. The first thing that strikes us when we reach the gate is how ruined and devastated the southern gate of the bridge is in Twilight Princess. This marks a clear contrast to the complete and untouched southern gate from the gameplay footage of Zelda Wii U. Let's move with Twilight Princess Link across the Great Bridge of Hylia, where we can see that the northern gate share a design similar to the one found in Zelda Wii U. Both consist of two tall towers connected with a stone structure and a hole in between them. In other words, these two bridges must be one and the same, but from different time periods. And this is where it gets complicated, since a scenario based on this theory could only make sense if Zelda Wii U takes place before the events of Twilight Princess, but after the events of Ocarina of Time. The question then arises, how much time has passed in between the two games? I believe we should bring in some footage from Ocarina of Time, as it's the only console Zelda game prior to Twilight Princess in the Zelda timeline to include Lake Hylia as a province. At the same time, I decided to exclude A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds, this time since they belong to a completely different branch of the timeline. Of the gameplay footage from Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess and Zelda Wii U, we can now see the following. 1. In Lake Hylia from Ocarina of Time, there's no visible signs of the Great Bridge of Hylia made out of stone. The only bridge that appears is a wooden bridge to the central point of the lake. 2. In Twilight Princess, the Great Bridge of Hylia, which connects the two different areas of Hyrule Field, exists but is in a damaged state after what must have been a battle over the control of the bridge. 3. From the gameplay footage of Zelda Wii U, it appears that the Great Bridge of Hylia exists, share a similar design to the one from Twilight Princess, and is in an untouched state. These observations can only indicate one thing. The Great Bridge of Hylia did not exist at the time of Ocarina of Time. This means that it was most likely constructed some generations after and is therefore present in Twilight Princess, though in a devastated state. With this, it could be that Lake Hylia from Zelda Wii U is placed in the child timeline, either in between Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess, shortly after the construction of the Great Bridge of Hylia, due to the undamaged state of the bridge, as seen in the gameplay presentation during the Game Awards. Or Zelda Wii U could possibly take place after the events of Twilight Princess, when we take in consideration the possibility of the bridge being reconstructed after the events in Twilight Princess. A final link that might give some light on this is that Epona, Link's trusty stallion, has only appeared in the series within the Unified Timeline and the Child Timeline in the following games: Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Four Swords Adventures, The Minish Cap, Twilight Princess, and now Zelda Wii U. Alright. With that behind us, we can finally go over and discuss some of the most important mechanics and implementations that should be included within Lake Hylia and the other lakes and rivers found in Zelda U. I decided to include some different categories this time, beginning with geography, followed by a section about controls, fishing since it is a series staple, races, villages, and the dungeon or dungeons of these areas. In terms of geography, the most important thing to remember is that Zelda U apparently has several lakes and rivers that are much vaster than the ones that were present in previous installments. This creates possibilities which were unknown or unheard of within the series in the past. First and foremost, this lays the groundwork for more water activities, or perhaps even making rowing into a central mean of transportation in the game. It will make a lot of sense since it appears that the lakes and rivers will stretch to nearly all provinces throughout the vast world of Hyrule. And just as in the demo of Twilight Princess from 2005, I really hope that we will have a smaller boat or canoe at our disposal from specific villages and be able to use these to explore the different locations along the water routes. Another great addition would be to bring back some of the river-based minigames from Twilight Princess, or even better, create some new and creative ones to grant some much needed variety to the gameplay, apart from just rowing a boat gently down the stream. One thing that can make or break the game experience within the water areas in Zelda U will be the swimming and diving controls. The reason for bringing this up is that throughout the 3D console Zelda games, the swimming controls have remained inconsistent, and with the upcoming release of Majora's Mask 3D, this issue has once again become relevant. We will return back to Majora's Mask 3D, but first I want to look back at the drastic differences between the Wii releases of Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword in terms of swimming and diving controls. Both versions implemented motion controls, but in drastically distinctive ways. The Wii version of Twilight Princess used the analog stick and the A button for diving, while in Skyward Sword, U, or more precisely the Wii Remote Plus, was the control during diving sections. In many cases, this resulted in awkward maneuvering, inaccurate controls when diving, and missing the target when performing the underwater spin, jump, or attack. Let's get back to Majora's Mask 3D, since according to several gaming sites with GameXplain in front, the worst change in this remake was done to the swimming and diving controls of Zora Link, where a fast-paced gliding swimming mechanic has apparently been swapped with controls more similar to those found in Twilight Princess. The question which then arises is whether this decision will have an impact on the development of Zelda Wii U in terms of the swimming and diving controls, since there might be a possibility that Zelda Wii U will take inspiration from the development experience from this remake and previous entries in the series. Personally, I hope Eiji Aonuma and his development team in Nintendo EAD Group Number 3 will stay away from involving the gyroscope too much in the swimming and diving controls within the game. One of my favorite activities in Zelda games is fishing in the ponds. Though this minigame has only appeared twice in the 3D Zelda games, these being Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess, it is still one of the most memorable ones throughout the series. After all, who does not have memories catching the Hyrule Loach for the first time in Ocarina of Time, or the Hylian Loach in Twilight Princess? The only thing that has intrigued me is that you cannot take the professional rod with you out and fish in ZORAS River or Lake Hylia. I hope this will be changed in Zelda Wii U. Another thing I would like to see is more fish and other water creatures appearing in the rivers and lakes, since these have been completely empty to this point. Furthermore, one of the greatest additions to the Wii version of Twilight Princess was the inclusion of motion controls, with the Wii remote imitating a real-life rod and the nunchuck being the reel. This combination gave a sense of immersion like no other, and even though I am well aware that the main controller of the Wii U is the gamepad, I still hope that Aonuma will at least include the Wii remote and nunchuck as an optional control if they allow for the possibility of fishing in the game. Lake Hylia and the rivers are known in the series as common grounds shared among the ZORAS, the Hylians and the round-eared humans. This should as well be the case in Zelda Wii U. The Hylians and the round-eared humans should be found around Lake Hylia and in smaller fishing villages adjacent to rivers and lakes. In Twilight Princess, these NPCs were mostly responsible for some sort of tourist attraction or activities in places such as Henna's fishing pond, Isa's river raft ride, and the run by Hylian's Fire's Cannon and Falby's Flight by Four. Personally, I could see a similar structure, but in a vaster extent in Zelda Wii U. When it comes to the ZORAS, I believe they should be present as in Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess around Lake Hylia as protectors of the temple in its depths, and along the waterways as guides or racing buddies for Link. The Zora NPCs could as well offer specific activities such as diving for prizes such as rupees, pieces of hearts and other rewards. In other words, they should be present in all or most of the water provinces, and as well have a central role outside Zora's domain due to the vast size of their potential areas in Zelda U. The rivers and lakes of Hyrule should consist of at least some smaller fishing villages inhabited by Hylians, rounded humans and ZORAS. In this case, some great additions will be the inclusion of fish markets, where you will be able to buy different sort of fish which could serve and have multi-purpose in different stages of the game. Further examples may be rentals, where you will be able to rent a canoe or a boat for travel, exploration, minigames or fishing. And finally, bait shops, where you will be able to buy different types of fishing rods, reels and baits, and all of them being in different price ranges. Since the introduction of the first 3D water dungeon in Ocarina of Time, the water temples have had a notorious reputation in the Zelda series. With the Water Temple from Ocarina of Time and Lakebed Temple from Twilight Princess as prime examples of dungeons with both tedious and confusing layouts that truly tested the patience of the player. This trend was finally abandoned with the inclusion of the ancient system in Skyward Sword. At first it might seem to be a typical water dungeon with switches and lengthy underwater swimming sections, but halfway through the dungeon changes and transforms into becoming one of the most unconventional and enjoyable dungeons throughout the series, with several references to Buddhism. The same can be said about the bosses of these temples. The boss fights with Morpha in Ocarina of Time and Morpheal in Twilight Princess both take place in a large chamber with a water-based boss. The boss fight against Koloktos in the ancient system, on the other hand, like the dungeon it lurks in, breaks the convention of a water temple in the Zelda series, as it has nothing to do with water. And once again, it is considered as one of the most memorable and enjoyable boss fights and has appeared either at the top or close to the top in several top 10 lists of boss fights in the series. In terms of the water dungeon in Zelda Wii U, I must be honest and say that I'm uncertain as to what Nintendo EAD 3 will come up with. Nonetheless, it is quite obvious that with an overworld as vast as it is, and with a large section of it consisting of lakes, rivers and even a sea, there is a high possibility that we might see one or perhaps even two water dungeons in this game. From the experience and tradition to this point in the series, I however dare to say the following: we will either get a water dungeon structured in a similar fashion to the water temple from Ocarina of Time and LakeSide temple from Twilight Princess, or an unconventional water temple similar to the one of Ancient System from Skyward Sword, or something completely new. Summing up, the Lake Province, or more precisely provinces consisting of both lakes and rivers, inherits a lot of possibilities, both in terms of timeline placement, the vast geographical size, swimming control options, attractions such as fishing, races in the area, urban environments, and once again the potential of reshaping the conventions of what we define as a water dungeon, similar to what we got in Skyward Sword. As a final note, I would like to add that this summary will most likely be further expanded in future episodes of Zelda Unknown, after covering Zora's domain and the Bay and Sea province of Hyrule. That is all for this episode of Zelda Unknown. I hope you enjoyed this one and want to like, share, comment, and if you're new to my channel, I would be highly thankful if you subscribe. Before I sign out, I want to thank all of you who helped this channel to reach 500 subscribers since the last episode of Zelda Unknown. You cannot imagine how much this support means to me, and I promise to all of you to deliver my personal best in all of my future uploads. The next episode of Zelda Unknown will be uploaded on February 23rd and be a two-part special in collaboration with McIntyre Productions, the first half being uploaded on his channel. Until then, this was the Commonwealth Realm and I will see you later.